everyone. My name is Connie Baker, and I have something on my heart today that I want to be able to express to all of you in clear and simple terms. I often get asked, what exactly is religious abuse? What is this spiritual abuse thing you keep talking about, Connie? And that I keep hearing more about in the culture at large. And I want to take a few minutes today to actually define that. It is important that when we throw around words and we use words like abuse and religious abuse, that we're clear on what we mean. So let's have a chat today about this. I have written out a definition of religious abuse that I think is very dense, it's very compact, but I think it'll help you understand what we're talking about. The definition I have, I'm going to read it here. By definition, any abuse consists of some type of power differential. All right? That's where one person has more power than the other and hurts the other person with that power. All right, so we've got a difference in power. One person has a weightier amount of power than another person does. Hold on. This is true of spiritual abuse. Now, this power in spiritual abuse can be perceived or real. This power can be held by one religious person, a small or large group of religious people, or, get this, the implicit rules of the whole organization. The abusive person or institution has some sort of power that the abused person does not have, and they use that power, usually leveraging religious ideas or the idea of God, to manipulate, control, hurt, exploit, suppress, silence, or weaken the other person. All right, that's just all kinds of stuff in there that we can't fully unpack here today on this specific video. But basically what we're talking about is one person or institution or system has power that another person does not have. And that person who does not have the power ends up getting hurt by the system. That's really what I'm trying to say there. And in religious abuse specifically, the idea of God or religious ideas are used to gain power. That can be done in so many different types of ways. The Bible says you have to do this. The leader of our faith says you need to do this. Well, we all believe that this is the way that you should act. See, those are all power differentials where somebody is given more power. All right, this leads us to another question. What are examples of this power differential? How exactly does one person have more power than another? You guys, I'm going to throw you a little secret here. This is applicable in all kinds of domains of life. It's applicable in families. It's applicable in education and educational school systems. It's applicable in employment. It applies to friendship. It applies to government. It applies to all kinds of things. So these examples of power differential that I'm going to go through apply to all kinds of domains of life. I'm going to specifically talk about how this works itself out in religious structures, because that's where my heart's at. We don't talk about this a lot. So I want to talk about power and examples of power differential in a religious structure. All right, I have 7. So fasten your seatbelts. We're going to bust through this. All right. Examples of power differential. 1 is an actual a position of power or authority. That one's kind of obvious. This can be all kinds of things. In religious circles specifically, this can be pastors, priests, denominational leaders, speakers, teachers, board members, Sunday school teachers, small group leaders, all kinds of different types of religious leaders. Some of these are individuals, some of them are groups. I think you noticed that. So it's a position, it's power by a position of authority or control. All right, that's number one. Number two is power by demographics. Each of these are their own half-hour lesson, but I'm going to zip through them. Under demographics, we have age difference. This is why abuse of underage and the elderly is so significant, because if you are at either end of that continuum on the bell curve of either a child, and here's adulthood, and then old age, where you may lose some power, and you're on either end of those, age makes a big difference on who has power. Gender, males or females, who generally has more power in religious institutions? At least half the population are very clear on that. Males historically have carried the vast amount of power in religious institutions. Now, are there exceptions to all of these? Absolutely. And in gender, it generally is weighted toward the men. They have more power. Marital status. I know in the circles I was raised in evangelicalism, there is some unwritten weird rule that says married women have way more power than single women do. Way more status and therefore power. Why? Not a clue. Makes no sense, but they do. All right. Race. Oh, this is a can of worms, and an important one. Race has a huge impact on power in demographics. That's why we are having this huge cultural conversation on race. And this is true of religious systems most of the time. Are there exceptions to this? Of course. But overall, if you are Caucasian and white, you will carry more power and influence by your race. Not okay. It's not that it's right. It just is. And there's a lot of us working to change some of that. The second one, the next one is sexual orientation. Historically in the church, LGBTQ movement, the whole people in that group carry very little power, very little say-so. In fact, a lot of times they're profoundly ostracized and deeply damaged by the church. So you've got lesser power if you are not a straight person. Then you've got education. That's another demographic. What type of degree do you have? A lot of times, the higher the degree, the more power you have. Let me stop here for a minute. Power in and of itself is not wrong. In fact, society dictates that we need certain people to have power. In theory, with good policemen, we want police to have power to support and protect vulnerable citizens. So we want certain people to have power. It's not wrong for them to have power. When I had my surgery for cancer, my surgeon, my anesthesiologist put a mask on my nose. I went out. I was under anesthesia, and they made a huge incision in my neck. I gave them tremendous power. It wasn't wrong that they had that power. They didn't misuse it. It was appropriate. So let's be clear, having power is not wrong in and of itself. Having power and misusing it is profoundly wrong and damaging. All right, so those are the first two, power by position and power by demographics. Number 3, power by use of physical force, intimidation, or a weapon. Okay, this is just good old blunt brute force power, physical, using something physical to leverage power over another person. I work out at the gym, and sometimes I'm pretty darn fit and fairly strong, but I'm about 5'5", and my husband is 6'2", And I always come up to him and go, don't mess with me. He was like, yeah, I'm super afraid. There's no way I could overpower him physically. There's no way. I don't care how strong I am. Now, if I learn some skills, I might be able to, take judo, karate, something. I might be able to. But just with brute force, there's no way. He weighs way more than I do. He's in great shape and he's tall. And he's a man. He's just built differently. So there's that physical power differential. And number 4, power by position of financial, academic, or career control. So if you've got an employer, they have power over your finances. If you're going to a school, they have power over your grades and transcripts and your degree. So there's some power there. Number 5, power by personal presence. This one gets very subjective, and it's about perception. But we've got things like physical appearance, just a good old powerful personality. Some people just bust in and they have a powerful personality. Everybody goes, whoa, okay, I guess I'll do what they say. Some people are just super skilled at manipulation. That's not okay. Well, they can be skilled as long as they don't use that skill. Informally influential. Sometimes people just have power because in this personal presence, because a group of people have said they're a great person, we listen to what they say. If somebody has control over your reputation or your social support, that's another form of a power by personal presence. Okay? So those are they're very real and they're very perceived, both of those. All right, so then we have number 6, power by having been given trust. If I give someone trust, I give them power. Is that bad? No way. Not if they have earned that trust. If they've earned that trust, that's totally appropriate. That I would give them power. All right. But I have given them power if I trust them. Number 7 is the catch-all. Any number of given factors. All right, any number of factors going on here. So there can be many, many more than these, but these are ones that I think cover a huge majority of where power differential lies. We've got power by position of authority or control. Remember that list of pastors, teachers, board members, small group leaders, that sort of thing. That's number 1. Number 2, power by demographics. The age, gender, marital status, race, sexual orientation, and education. 3, power by use of physical force. 4, power by position of financial, academic, or career control. 5, power by personal presence, just what they bring to the mix. 6, power by giving trust, by having been given trust. And 7, any number of factors. All right, those are the primary examples of power differential. Let's go back and read the definition again, now that we kind of have a better feel for what this in practicality looks like. By definition, any abuse, this means sexual, domestic violence, beating a child, any type of elder abuse. Any abuse consists of some type of power differential, where one person has more power than the other and hurts the other person with that power. This is true of spiritual abuse. This power can be perceived or real. This power can be held by one religious person, a small or large group of religious people, or the implicit rules of the whole religious organization. The abusive person or institution has some sort of power that the abused person does not have, and they use that power, usually leveraging religious ideas or the idea of God, to do these things: manipulate, control, hurt, exploit, suppress, silence, or weaken the other person. This is the foundation of what we're talking about when we talk about religious abuse. This is the foundation. And as we look at other parts of religious abuse in my classes in the seminars and the webinars and all the things I'm doing, this is the solid foundation from which to build. So I hope this is helpful. Hope this is helpful to you to start defining this kind of ambiguous thing that we call religious abuse. All right, looking forward to interacting with you more.